So just when you wake up on a given day and say, hey, maybe Bridgeport is tapped out. Maybe there isn't going to be any more looniness, any more craziness, any more alleged funny business into and through Bridgeport. Something happens and you are dragged back into reality here. Something happens, and in the end, when you get the explanation of what has just happened, you say, well, yeah, sadly, it's Bridgeport, and you can see about 150,000 of the fine people that live in the city throwing their arms up and saying, what am I talking about today? Oh, and the story today has some familiar names. You'll be shocked when I give you the names. You will, the proverbial feather will knock you over. Well, can knock me over with a feather. Remember about a year and a half ago, there were allegations that a very familiar name in Bridgeport politics, Wanda Jeter Pataki. I wasn't making this up. This was a story. If you remember, I had my buddy, my pal, Paul Bass on from the New Haven Independent, who wrote a very long, very detailed story on how Wanda Jeter Pataki may have had a hand in what was being described as a marriage mill at New Haven Town Hall. And some marriages had been seen earlier by a New Haven clerk. I forget her name, but she was eventually, I think, kind of run out of her job. Because how dare she do her job and call the state and call the feds and said, hey, we have some scam marriages going here. But, of course, the leftists that now run the city of my birth, the great city of Elms in New Haven, harassed her enough where I think she's out of a job right now. But I think there may have been some sort of a settlement there. But anyway, well, you would, and that was about a year and a half ago, and I swear to you, a few days ago, I was thinking about that story because I had been reading the New Haven Independent. I had been, researching some stuff, and I said, geez, I wonder what happened to that marriage mill. Well, guess what? Sham marriages are apparently, and again, innocent till proven guilty, I get it, but just as when the New Haven story broke, there were other allegations of, I think, things happening in Southington and Bridgeport and the town of Trumbull as well. Well, guess what? Apparently, according to a very well-written and seems to be a well-researched story here in the Connecticut Post, apparently true love, my friends, love is in the air. It looks like we have sham marriages in Bridgeport. I'm shocked. Aren't you? You mean people, Paul, would be coming here to soak up immigrant benefits? I'm kidding. Yes. And I urge you, if you have access to any of the Hearst publications, the New Haven Register, the Connecticut Post, the Norwalk Hour, the Stamford Advocate, make sure you read this story. A story by Joshua Eaton, Brianna Gersulo, and our buddy Brian Lockhart, who's been on the show here several times. The headline says it all, kids. Why couples traveling to Connecticut to wed are raising questions about sham marriages. Oh, how dare questions be raised? I'm sure, especially in these quickie marriages where one person might not be a U.S. citizen. Oh, stop it, Paul. This is about love. Oh, come on. L is for the way you look at me. Sorry. O is for the only one I see. Come on, V is very, very... I'm sorry, I just let... When I think marriage, I think love, I think dedication. What's your name again? I think love, I think dedication to people till death do us part, or till we can be hitched and look, I'm just telling you what's in this story, okay? But let's get into the details, shall we? why couples traveling to Connecticut to wed are raising questions about sham marriages. You're kidding. Sham marriages in Bridgeport? I'm shocked. Oh, my God. Is every word that... Oh, sorry. I'm just, when I even... Of course this is love. Stop. Bridgeport has about 130 justices of the peace. This is not me saying this. This is from the Hearst story. I swear you have to read this. Your head's going to explode. Have somebody there with a wet mop. Have a loved one there with a wet mop, because your head is going to shatter when you hear this story. And the best part of this whole thing is nobody will do anything about it. Don't look at us. Oh, how do we know these marriages aren't based in love? Is all that I can give to you in Bridgeport. Bridgeport has about 130 justices of the peace. That's according to the city's website. Officials who are authorized under Connecticut state law to officiate marriages at their discretion. Of 4 women who officiated the majority of weddings in Connecticut's biggest city in May, records show. Now, do these names ring a bell here? Let's play a little game show. When you recognize a name, just go ding, 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 ding. Ready? Give me a shot here. Try it. Ding, 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 ding. There you go. Records show that from May, 4 women officiated the majority of weddings. Quickie weddings. Right? Wanda Jeter Pataki, a former city employee and vice chair of the Democratic Town Committee. I'm shocked. City Councilwoman Enaida Martinez. Are you shocked? And 2 of Enaida Martinez's daughters, Jasmine Cooper and Jamisha Cooper. Again, folks, don't shoot me. I'm just the messenger here. On many weekdays, either Wanda Jeter Pataki or Martinez was found camped in community rooms toward the back of the government center, first floor waiting room for couples to come back for quick marriage ceremonies. In May, over 60% of all the weddings in Bridgeport were officiated by one of the 4, records show. Well over half of those were between, here it is, folks, here it is. Wake up, Bridgeport, wake up, Connecticut. Now, this comes as what did we talk about all yesterday? Not enough money because we're giving out benefits to illegals. Well over half of those weddings were between a citizen and a non-citizen who appeared to come from out of state. The volume of marriages, especially those between a citizen and a non-citizen, because, of course, everybody gets up in the morning and says, I'm a citizen, I'm just going to marry this non-citizen. Because it's love is all that I can give to you. The volume of marriages could increase the likelihood that some of these marriages were shams intended solely to obtain an immigration benefit. Oh, no. Tell me that doesn't happen. And we've only been talking about this for a couple of years after it popped up, reared its head in New Haven. Oh, no. They love this country. How could they be just coming for the benefits? Now, when we come back, I'll tell you why New Haven, Bridgeport, Trumbull, other cities and towns in Connecticut are becoming magnets for this. And I'll ask the question, do you think that our esteemed men and women in the General Assembly will change the law to battle this? No, they won't. You know why they won't? Because Trump. Tell you, there is never, people ask me, they say, how do you do 4 hours of just talking on the air? I said, well, you have to understand something. We do a lot of other stuff. Chris's news, our national news, commercials, traffic, weather. So, I'm not actually talking for 4 hours. And somebody says, well, how long do you talk? I said, about 2 hours and 35 minutes, 2 hours and 40 minutes. Well, that's still a long time. And I say, well, yeah, it is, but it really isn't when you do it in and around the city of Bridgeport. Now, Again, I'm not in any way pillaring the fine people of Bridgeport, the people that are in Bridgeport, some of whom want good governance. But, man, this is the gift that just never stops giving. I guess now in Bridgeport, as we found out in New Haven about a year and a half ago, and as I guess is going on in Trumbull, you folks in Trumbull, have you heard about this? There's another allusion in this story that there's a sham marriage operation going on in Trumbull. Why couples traveling to Connecticut to wed are raising questions about sham marriages. Now, there's an easy way to slow this down. But I will ask this question now. You folks in the Democratic majority in Hartford, Bob Duff, Martin Looney, Jason Rojas, Matt Ritter, Ned Lamont. You going to do anything about this? Or what can we do? Well, you know what you can do? Get rid of something that Connecticut does that is acting as a magnet here. Apparently, unlike in other states, including neighboring New York, couples in Connecticut can get a license to get married and get married on the same day. Who thought that was a good idea? That's the first thing that has to go. Get rid of the ability in this state to get a marriage license and then get married the same day. No, that's not necessary. Well, we love each other so deeply. Well, then you can wait a few days. Says here in this story, a spokesperson for the city of Bridgeport. Now get this. Now, folks, if this is not Connecticut, I don't know what is. Right? By the way, 203-333-9422, 333-WICC, especially in a story like this. I know there are some people that may not want to go on the radio because your your voices will be recognized. So if you have any information about this, about these alleged the marriage mill going on allegedly, let's be kind now on one aspect of it. Innocent till proven guilty, but some of the names, look, don't get mad at me if you're one of these people named in this story or you hear somebody screaming at me on the radio. Don't kill the messenger here, Toots. I'm not naming the names here. Hearst is. But see, we can talk about it here. Can't talk about it anywhere else. So if you have any information about marriage scams or stuff you see at City Hall, text me. I won't mention your name. I won't mention your town. 203-333-9422, 333-WICC. A Bridgeport spokesperson says it's not the city's responsibility to police marriages. The Connecticut Department of Public Health, which maintains state marriage records, says it's not their responsibility either. So both the state and the city of Bridgeport, according to this story that I'm reading from here, say no, it's a law enforcement issue. But the Connecticut State Police are not investigating the issue. The state's attorney's office for Bridgeport says it's not gotten any related criminal referrals. And state law now you know where this comes from, protect the illegals. State law places strict limits on when and how local and state law enforcement agencies can cooperate with the feds. Some cities have their own prohibitions. Remember this, a woman in New Haven had to retire last year after an outside investigation commissioned by the city found that she may have violated state and city policies because she reported her concerns about scam marriages to the feds. So that's where we are here in Connecticut, folks. Don't look at me. It's not my responsibility. And if anybody dares to point out some phony marriages here or a marriage scam, who'll get in trouble? The person that raised the red flag. Because that's what we do here in Connecticut. Maddening. Maddening. And I'm shocked at the names, aren't you? Shocking. Wanda Jeter Pataki, Enaida Martinez, and 2 of her daughters. Don't get mad at me saying, hey, what are you dragging their names through the mud? But I ain't dragging nobody's name through nothing. It's in the paper. Now, here's a question I have. Now, of course, we have my, I have my first, what can I say? All right. I just got a text here. Okay, this person does. All right. Let's just say, I don't want to get this person perhaps in trouble. Let's just say the first couple of texts I got from somebody seem to corroborate the story here. But let me ask you this. Why can't we change the law? Should Connecticut still allow same-day marriage licenses and marriages by justices of the peace? Is that really necessary? All right, if somebody's on their deathbed, all right. Geez, does your fiance speak English here? Do you speak English? English, do you speak it? All right, let's get a perspective on the big stories of the day, including a call by the Republicans in Hartford for better oversight on millions and millions and millions of dollars that goes to state nonprofits. The vast majority of them do wonderful work, but again now we have a bubbling controversy in Hartford as to whether a well-known state legislator did improper things, routing money there on the state nonprofit side, welcoming Republican State Senate member Rob Sampson to the program. Rob represents Senate District 16, Prospect, Cheshire, Southington, Wolcott, and Waterbury. Rob, it's Paul again. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Paul. Thanks so much for having me.
Rob, what are your thoughts before we get to the news conference you folks had regarding the nonprofit funding and maybe a lack of oversight? This is 2 stories in a row, Rob, this one here from Hearst and an expose about a year and a half ago from my friend Paul Bass at the New Haven Independent regarding possibility of marriage mills and sham marriages. What are your thoughts on this, Rob? And can the state do anything from your point of view in Hartford to cut down on this?
Yes. So, Paul, I was listening to your callers immediately before coming on, and the one gentleman that said that, live and let live because it's a small number, I want to correct him and say it's not a small number. I mean, this is happening in large numbers. The story that you just referenced, the Hearst story from today, says that in 1 month recently in Bridgeport, where they had 100 marriages, something like 40 of them were between someone who was a undocumented or not lawful immigrant. Mm-hmm. So, to say that every one of those is actually a sham marriage, I don't know that you can go that far. But I can tell you from my own personal experience that it's happening even in my district. I big issues in Southington.
Really?
Even in small town Wolcott. I had a conversation recently with some folks over at Town Hall, and they were telling me, of course, the anecdotal stories, but
sure,
about how these folks come. They clearly don't even know each other. They're being introduced to one another at the moment they're about to be married. Then you have 4 people lined up in a row to get married, and they're using the same rings. They're just handing the rings to the next.
Oh, come on! Come on! They're handing off the rings.
Yeah. Again, no shame, and of course, the folks in my town hall here were kind of taken aback by it. And,
yeah.
But they feel like their hands are tied also, that they don't want to get in trouble for discrimination or something like that. So this kind of thing is going to continue to grow and expand as long as Connecticut like a lot of other things that Connecticut is known for that are not necessarily above board, it's going to become a destination. You want to get your abortion? Come to Connecticut. You want to, look for sanctuary services as an illegal immigrant? Come to Connecticut. And if you want a sham marriage, this apparently is the place to get one.
And Rob, the thing that bothers me, and I'm sure the people you talk to in your district there, they probably told you this, but I would imagine, Rob, and you correct me if I'm wrong, they're probably afraid to actually go on the record and do this, because look at what happened to that woman in Town Hall in New Haven, who essentially she knew there was maybe not criminality, but an abuse of the system happening, Rob. And I guess she retired early. She was a longtime employee, but she was essentially, beaten into legal submission on this by the city of New Haven.
Right. It's unbelievable, but that's what happens when you have a city government that obviously doesn't care much about immigration law in the state of Connecticut. So, I think that there are things that can be done. I think, number one, you can create penalties for people that engage in this activity for fraudulent purposes. And the other thing that you can do, I think, is to empower, local town governments to be able to set their own parameters, to verify that what's going on is above board.
Yeah.
The story that I was just referencing, I think they documented that this one individual had been married 5 times
I saw that,
inside 1 year. Something's going on.
Right. You don't have to be a Harvard Law School grad to wonder that. Now, you folks in the caucus, I know, Rob, there has always been this kind of underlying worry that so much of this money, and many of these nonprofits do great work. I think you and I can agree with that. But I guess there's a concern here, and this weaves into a controversy now that's going on in Hartford with some nonprofit funding. Do you think that there isn't enough oversight here that people don't necessarily know about?
It's a completely and utterly shady process, to be honest with you, Paul. There is a difference between, nonprofit organizations that the state of Connecticut contracts with to perform various services.
Sure.
And that is all very much above board, and that takes place through many, many different hearings and discussion and contracts and things like that. Same thing with bonding money. If I need to get some money for, a portion of the state of Connecticut for a project or something like that, I've got to go before the finance committee and make my case, and people can argue whether it's good or bad and so forth. There is a process. What we were referring to yesterday at our press conference is about earmarks, which is nothing more than them just putting a name and a dollar amount in a bill. Yeah. And this happened a couple of times in the most recent session, partly in the budget with over 100 items. And then earlier in the year, there was basically a political emergency certified bill that the Democrats brought forward, really just to shake their fist at President Trump. They were angry that Trump became president, and they wanted to show off for some of their more progressive constituencies, namely folks very much in favor of illegal immigration, and also folks that want to support the trans community. So they put all of these line item earmarks into a bill to just grant this kind of money in sometimes small amounts, 30, 40, 50, 60,000, all the way up to hundreds of thousands of dollars to these various organizations. But the thing to know is that there's no hearing, there's no application process, there's no nothing. In fact, even at that time, Paul, I was looking these organizations up online, trying to find them on the Secretary of State's office, things like that, and many of them could not be found.
And Rob, you're right in one case. In a $57 billion budget, okay, 50, 60 grand, whatever. Well, Rob, if it's improper, that's not good, because, I don't know, 60 grand could be a caseworker the DCF needs, or 50 grand could be an entry-level state employee job. So, a lot of people might hear say, oh, come on, they're complaining. Yeah, but when we have other lingering problems in the state, what people might say, oh, what, come on, what's Sampson going nuts for? No, it's the small amounts, Rob, that I think should be brought to the forefront here.
Right. And all told, you're talking about $20 million or so between the earmarks that were contained in the state budget and the ones passed earlier in the year, February, March time. Look, it's so funny, Paul, because when that first, ultra hyperbolic political bill that I was referencing passed the legislature, the governor actually vetoed the bill. And in his veto message, he was very clear to say that he didn't approve of the way the earmarks were done.
Yeah.
This is going outside of the proper process. It doesn't allow for the proper amount of scrutiny, et cetera. He said all of that in his veto message. A couple of weeks later, they came back in and passed a virtually identical bill, which the governor signed into law.
He got the message.
And, so, I mean, I thank him for his principled stance, but then what happened, Governor? I mean, come on now. In fact, I actually wrote him earlier this month, knowing we were going to have this press conference, to give him a chance, to explain to me why he had a change of heart, but I haven't got a response to that, of course.
All right, of course not. Hey, Rob Sampson, State Senate, Republican, District 16. Rob, good to chat with you, and we'll chat down the road. Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it.
Always my pleasure.
All right, there you go. Rob Sampson, Republican, State Senate member. And if you live in Cheshire, Prospect, Southington, Wolcott, or Waterbury, there's a chance that Rob is your representative in the State Senate.